All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football, and it's the second week of bowl season. We had our first set of games. It was great. They've been fantastic. People still opting out all over the place. The transfer portal is on fire. There may be more kids that are in the transfer portal even as we speak right now because it's still not closed. And who knows going to be committing. We got early National Signing Day coming up. And the man who's just renewed his commitment for the 24 season, my co-host Fresh. Fresh, how you doing, buddy?
I'm trying to get that Spinnable Sports doctorate. Haps, I'm doing great. I mean, like I said, bowl season is off to a crazy, start. We got games to complete, rainstorm in Orlando. We got a massive comeback between Western, Kentucky and ODU, and just other amazing events all across the board. That's where, at times we kind of get frustrated. There's too many bowl games. Guys are 6-6 teams getting in, whatever. But then when the games actually happen, you see these schools, these players go out there and compete for trophies or pieces of toast or whatever it might be. It really it brings you back to the point. You know what? There's never enough bowl games. Keep them coming. Bring all the crazy action, all the crazy antics, and let's just get as much football as we possibly can.
Right. It's been great because when we get to the month of like late April, early May, when the sports season starts to get really slow, we need to think back to some of these games. And we had college football. We have NFL going on, that great playoff race, especially in the AFC. But, college football is where it's just fun. It's just a whole lot more fun. It's more passionate. The fan bases are just crazy. There's a little bit smaller of a fan bases for college in certain areas, but than in the NFL. But this is just good times. And sometimes you get to see matchups that you normally wouldn't see. So I love bowl season. So, all right, Fresh. Well, folks, if you're looking for a bowl game earlier in this year, we've already covered all the way up to December 26th. So maybe check out the Spinnable Sports YouTube channel. Hey, if you want to help us support our channel in any way whatsoever, the easiest way to do it, it's free, it's cheap, it's easy. You don't got to do a whole lot. You just got to hit that subscribe button up there in the corner right there. It helps support our channel. Get notified every single time we drop a new video. Whether you like these full episodes where we cover all of the bowl games, or you want to watch individual bowl games and say which previews you're looking for, which ones you want to skip, which ones you want to see. We drop individual episodes every single week in making sure that you stay up to date with all the college football action going on right there. And that's the easiest way to do it, folks. That's the easiest way to support us. Like, subscribe, and leave us those comments because we love interacting with y'all.
Yep, bring it all in there. Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. In the comment section of YouTube. We love hearing it. Good, bad, and different. Tell us how smart or dumb we are. Bring it all on. We enjoy it all.
It's an entertaining time. It's fun to catch all of our gaffes that we make because, guys, we do a one-shot record on this stuff. This isn't stuff that we go back, edit, and like I say, Latu last week was entering the NBA draft instead of the NFL draft for me. So I did go back and catch myself on the tape saying that one. But you guys knew what I meant. All right, Fresh, let's go to our first bowl game. This game is going to be happening on December 27th. It is where they're going to dump a giant tub of mayo on the winning coach. It is the Duke's Mayo Bowl. UNC, North Carolina, the Tar Heels are going up against West Virginia. At time of record, West Virginia is a 6.5-point favorite in this game. Over-under set at 55.5 points. Currently, folks, we got a couple of notable opt-outs here right now. So it's we're trying to keep up to date with this. So here's who our notable opt-outs are. For those of you who've been following North Carolina, Drake May is opting out. He's getting ready for the NFL draft. Tez Walker, their leading receiver, he is also opting out. You take a look at Cedric Gray, the linebacker for UNC, really, really well. Miles Murphy, the defensive lineman out there, also opting out. A couple of defensive backs are opting out as well. On the West Virginia side, it's not as much. There's a couple of backups there. Justin Johnson Jr., he's in the transfer portal. There's a couple of guys who are listed right now on what we're looking at is on as listed as injury. I think probably the biggest loss for West Virginia would be the safety Hershey McLaurin. He's opting out in this bowl game here. That's what we got right now. Again, these things can change. Fresh, with Drake May not being in this football game, it really becomes the Omarion Hampton show for me. Omarion Hampton, 1,400 yards on the year, 15 touchdowns. We both had him as a post-regular season All-American here. This kid was electric. He may be one of the most exciting running backs going into the 2024 season. But West Virginia does a good job against the run. And they are kind of a bend, don't break type of defense there. What do you got for us? West Virginia going to be able to kind of pull off this upset here?
When I first started looking at this bowl game, obviously you factored in a lot of young guys getting practice time and trying to roll up to the depth chart and get their chance. But the whole season for UNC, in my opinion, has been a failure. You got two 8-4 teams. Their 8-4 is a failure, but West Virginia's 8-4 is a success. And that just shows you the scope of the preseason expectations, the players you got around you, the conference you play in, and where you set the bar for your program, or in better cases, where's the media set the bar for you when you come in. You kind of look at two double overtime wins away from being 8-4, or being 8-4 or being 6-6 for North Carolina. You sort of survived and kept going. You've lost to Virginia and Georgia Tech after being undefeated in back-to-back weeks. Where could the season have gone for them? Had some survival moments. Some other times it caught up with them. Was it all on the offense for Drake May not performing at standards? Was it having the Trez Walker thing laying over this football team for a while and dealing with that distraction off the field, getting him eligible and playing? Or was it the defense not playing up to standard, not getting to where they needed to be? Last year, obviously, they were absolutely horrendous. Gene Chizik came in here. They started seeing some progress early in the year, but it kind of tailed off in the middle of the season. Where does that lay in the balance? Then on the other side, you look at West Virginia. Coach comes in on the super hot seat up there in Morgantown. No one really knows what to expect. Garrett Green was a pretty good quarterback coming back. They had a pretty solid offensive line, but we're still waiting to sort of see how they put that entire team together in the Big 12. And if they held on versus Houston instead of having that heartbreaking loss, this team could have even gone bigger places. They were right in the thick of it. They were making every game competitive, and it's cool to see these two teams kind of facing off. And how do they take regular season to bowl season? How do they deal with some losses to the transfer portal? Who steps up from that depth chart? Because these teams definitely offensively put up a lot of numbers. You look at the Tar Heels; they averaged 503.9 total yards a game, and they ran for a heck of a lot. They threw for over 300 yards, which was tops in the ACC. They were the number one rushing attack at 197, tied with Georgia Tech. This offense for North Carolina can move it up and down, left and right. We thought Longo leaving, going to Wisconsin, how would the air raid blend? Drake May and this offense just kept it going. Like there was no loss from that coaching perspective. The defense, again, was not caught up at the fastest perspective. They could not get themselves all around there. You mentioned Hampton, fantastic stud at running back, really helped, I think, provide a nice little parity to May through the entire season and gave him some balance. Interesting to see how much they're going to carry and lean on him. How much does the bowl game mean to North Carolina? And, just Mac. Do they want to see Mac Brown get dumped with Mayo at the end of the ball game? That might be motivation enough for the players. We'll kind of see where's that tick. Do they even maybe hold off on Hampton a little bit, sort of rest his body, give him a full year off, get him ready for fall next year? More, kids are trying to think about NFL prospects, those sort of things. Do they sort of play him off, maybe train some snaps, get some other running backs some action in this football game to help build up that depth chart and moving forward? Defensively, they were 12th in the ACC in total yards allowed at 405, 9th in the ACC in points allowed at 27. And sadly, that's actually kind of an improvement from what they were the year before. It's not much, but it was slightly improved. Where can Gene Chizik in this game and going forward into year 3 really take strides? Do they use the transfer portal to build up this defense? I think that's more important. The offense, they're going to find dudes. If you have an offensive line, you can find playmakers, but you need some guys on the other side to stop somebody. Do they see some kids show up during bowl practice and in this game and make plays, make some tackles, take advantage of the opportunity to get on the field and some playing time and use some of the adjustments, use some of that youth? Because right now, if I'm Mac Brown and Gene Chizik, I think every single starting spot, every single two deep on that North Carolina defense should be wide open. So that's what I'm kind of watching also, is which of these guys wants to step up and really supplant themselves as that number one first team starter going into spring practice to really maybe help this defense improve and take a big step next year. On the other side, West Virginia, they are running down these country roads. The best rushing attack in the Big 12, averaging 234, sixth best offense in the Big 12, averaging 438 a game, and they're scoring 31.6 points a game. Their defense is also only give up 384 and 27 points. So they're not exactly the lockdown defense, but they've been in the middle of the pack in the Big 12 from that perspective. There should be a lot of points in this football game unless one of these defenses really has some players step up during practice. Garrett Green been fantastic all year for the Mountaineers, throwing over 2,000 yards, 15 touchdown passes, run for 708 and 13. Definitely a dual. I mean, he's defined the dual threat mentality and putting up points left and right. But he's also been blended with C.J. Donaldson and Hakeem White at running back, both over 700 yards rushing. One has 11 touchdowns, one has 3. The 2 running back combination with Green, that gives you a heck of a backfield. I got a feeling they're going to continue to keep doing it all year round. Run all over Carolina. Keep this thing on the ground. This game actually might go really fast because both teams are going to keep it on the ground, run the ball a lot, and defenses have been suspect all year. So expect a lot of points, a lot of yards on the ground. My bold even prediction is that we might even see combined 600 yards rushing between both these teams just because they have so much talent in the backfield. They keep plowing ahead. One other thing I'm also kind of looking at is Beanie Bishop from West Virginia. Does he actually play? He's a heck of a corner. He's a senior. Does he opt out last minute, or does he want to go out there and get himself a bowl win for Mountaineer Nation? Lockdown guy. I think he's definitely potentially has a good opportunity to be a day 2 pick in the NFL draft. So keep an eye on him. If he plays, it's awesome. If not, I totally understand it coming to this ball game. I have West Virginia covering the 6.5. I think they win by 10. I think their defense just does enough, and their offense is consistent enough to keep up with them. The Drake May loss and the Tez Walker loss for that Carolina offense is going to be a little painful for them to handle in this ball game. Definitely also the over is going to hit. These defenses aren't going to be, locking it down. I'm going to see a lot of points, a lot of rushing yards, and it's going to be a fun one in Charlotte.
Fresh, I've missed talking about West Virginia football, man, because I really do love everything about the Mountaineers and West Virginia here. From getting to sing country roads to the fan base, they have such a passionate group of fans. It's one of the best home field advantages in college football there in Morgantown. We got a lot of respect for the Mountaineers and for their fan base. And it's just something that, 2 years ago when we started this podcast, West Virginia got off to a real hot start. We got to talk about them a few times. And then last year, they really kind of, floundered along the way. And there was a lot of talk that Brown would be the first coach fired out of college football this year, and wound up having just a heck of a year. Like, really, you take a look at their 4 losses on the season: Penn State, Oklahoma State, and Houston. And that Houston's a 2-point loss there that came down to, if I recall correctly, a miracle play at the end of that football game. It was a miracle,
like 3 touchdowns, like a minute and a half. Yeah,
right. And you think about it, like West Virginia had a really a great year for them on their standards. Like, if I'm a Mountaineer fan, I'm sitting there going, we won games that probably a lot of people didn't think we would win, and we lost the games that were talent-wise, the teams were substantially better than us. You weren't going to talent up with Penn State. You weren't going to talent up with Oklahoma. You were going to be probably pretty competitive against them. Oklahoma State, maybe I would say that might be a little more closer in that talent gap there. But West Virginia, you guys overachieved. You need to give you your props there. West Virginia is going to run the football in this football game. And I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of passing. You take a look at you take a look at what Garrett Green's done. He's only thrown the ball 254 times. And then you take a look at their rushing attack. They've run the ball over 530 times on the season there. Hakeem White and C.J. Donaldson are an absolute beast of a tandem together. Donaldson at the end of the year was kind of nursing that injury. The last 2 games, he didn't play a whole lot. White jumped in. He had 2 remarkable games at the end of the season, just completely blowing the doors off of this place. He's got to have the Mountaineers fan base very, very excited. Without Miles Murphy, without Gray for UNC, I think this game is going to get ugly kind of fast for them because you're going to have to step up. You don't have your big play wide receiver in Walker. Your quarterback isn't Drake May anymore, who's an NFL talent. No knock against the guys behind him, but I'm just saying you're not going to replace Drake May that easily. Mac Brown's not going to be able to do it. I think West Virginia caps off this great season. I think we're singing country roads the entire time. We're talking about the Blue Ridge Mountains. We're talking about Shenandoah River. Life is old there. It's older than the trees, but we're younger mountains and fresh. This team is growing like a breeze. So take me home, country roads. I got West Virginia covering the 6.5, and I'll take the over as well. I think this is going to be a lot of points in this football game.
All I had to do was close my eyes, and I just heard John Denver right there with an Ohio accent. That was beautiful.
Yeah, that John Denver's full of. I just won't finish that one. All right, Fresh. Let's go to our next game. This one is an exciting one. I love this game here because it's the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Gotta love Pop-Tarts Bowl. It is the North Carolina Wolfpack out of the ACC. They're 9-3 on the season and facing the Kansas State Wildcats, 8-4 on the year. A little bit of a disappointing year for Kansas State there out of the Big 12. Right now, here is our current projection of who is going to be kind of sitting out for this game. Kansas State has lost their offensive coordinator. Will Howard is in the transfer portal. Ward, the running back, he is out as well. I know he's not the primary running back, but he has gotten a kind of like that spellback feature behind Gittens. You take a look at Brooks is opt out. This is, I think, probably the biggest one. All-American guard Cooper Beebe is a potential opt-out according to this right now. They haven't said it for sure. Sanat is out as well. There's a couple of guys over there on the defensive side of the ball as well that looks like they will be out. And then for North Carolina, it is not a lot of their big names are out for this. A couple of guys who are contributors, but no one of the big name that you're taking a look at. So like NC State, they're still going to have Brennan Armstrong is right now projected to play. You take a look at their leading rusher on the season right now. Sama he looks like he's going to play in this. Their leading wide receivers are going to play in it. So, good job at NC State there. And most importantly for them, Peyton Wilson is playing in this game. He was a potential opt-out. He has said that he is playing in this game as a time record. Time of record right now, Kansas State is a 3-point favorite in this game here, Fresh. All right, I'll turn it over to you, buddy. What do you got for me? Kansas State versus NC State.
Well, 2 years ago when NC State and Devin Lear was healthy, they were supposed to play UCLA out there in the Holiday Bowl, and UCLA pulled COVID stuff. Some people call it shenanigans the day of, cost them a chance to get 10 wins. Bet you $1 million right now that the only thing they've talked about since they got that 9th win and that season completed was, we're not letting this game get away from us. We are prepared to get ourselves a 10-win season. NC State fans are well aware that 10-win seasons do not come along very often. Haven't had one, I believe, since the days of T.A. McClendon, Phillip Rivers, Chuck the Chest Amato back in the day. Like, it's been a while. Peyton, Phillip Rivers had, maybe one kid at a time. He has, 10, 11 now? So it's definitely been a minute. This means something to NC State. To go out there and get 10 wins in the ACC, and kind of they always get overshadowed, no matter what sport it is, by Carolina or Duke or Florida State or Clemson. They're just sort of there in Raleigh, and they take offense to that. They have a lot of pride in who they are, and I got a feeling it's been reverted through the entire locker room, through the practice facility. 10 wins means something, and this team is going to be focused. You're down in Orlando, Pop-Tarts Bowl. Winning team gets to eat a live, like a huge, massive Pop-Tart. This is going to come down to it. Brennan Armstrong, you're going through your 12th doctorate right now from between Virginia and NC State. You're a pretty smart dude, those degrees you got. And this is your last opportunity. Will you probably go to the NFL? I highly doubt it. You might be a backup. Could you play in Canada? Probably. But this is your last real chance to show up and show out. You had a heck of a run at Virginia. You got off to a rough start here at NC State. You have a chance to air it all out here, become an NC State hero, get a 10 wins, and go in and cap off a pretty amazing college career. Go out there and just let it loose. Don't play tight. Don't play loose. Don't play scared. Play loose. Fire it up. Throw the ball around, especially to Concepcion, your big-time receiver. Get them all involved early. Kansas State right now, they're a wounded animal. They don't have all their stars really playing. Can't take them lightly, because Coach Kleiman gets those Wildcats ready to play. And they're a very tough and physical football team. But you have a chance here to really accomplish something special. So enjoy the moment. Go out there and grasp it. Throw it around. Take advantage of some of the speed you have. But you're a tough football team. Peyton Wilson, one of the arguably best linebacker via awards, whatever you want to call it. The dude's a stud. And that entire defense, if they can show up and get some tackles, you're going against Avery Johnson on their side for Kansas State, not Will Howard. Running back room's a little depleted. Sinet, you mentioned, not playing in the game. Like, there are opportunities for NC State to get this done. Do not overlook the moment. balance your offense, running game, throwing game. Brandon has great legs, being able to use that mobility in the pocket, keep extending plays, use that. Play to your strengths in the football game. Take chances, be aggressive, go out there and try to attack the Wildcats. On the other side, there's a lot of new faces for casual fans for Kansas State. They're going to be watching this football game and trying to check in, like, who's the next guy up? Who's the next player? Avery Johnson Howard sort of changed out, throughout the entire season this past year. So there's definitely experience. He is the future at quarterback going forward. Giddens there at running back. You mentioned Ward not playing. Giddens going to get the full load. Who's going to be that number 2 is going to fill in and get the spell backs? Who's going to be the go-to receiver on third down for this entire Wildcat offense? How's this offensive line, if BB does play, do you guys have that pride to own the trenches and get after it and be Midwest tough? If BB doesn't play, who fills that gap? And then defensively, Kansas State's always a little scrappy. They're not going to be a complete shutdown defense where you're going to only give up 8 points a game, and they're not Iowa. But they'll tackle in the open field, and they always have been. How do you guys come out here and shut down some of the mobile quarterback situation and little flashy receivers that NC State has? You're going to have to play within yourselves. Who wants roster spots? Who wants to compete? I think that's where the end of this bowl game is really who is going to compete for a win. There's so many questions, so many guys in and out, but a lot of guys have others to play for. Who's going to compete for each other, for their team, for your conference pride, and for a Pop-Tart? I think it means a little bit more to NC State right now just because that 10 wins is something really special. It's probably been banging through the entire locker room for a while now. I'm going to take NC State to win this football game. I think they are going to win 27-15, 27-14, excuse me. It'll be a battle. They'll pull away in the fourth quarter. It'll be a nice little fight. It'll be a good bowl game, but I think NC State and the Advantage has too much, and they will find a way to get the W and eat the Pop-Tart in the end.
Fresh, we've been great to this entire state of Kansas these last 2 years. Kansas, whether it's the Jayhawks or the Wildcats, they've been so supportive of this podcast here. And I got to show a lot of love for them because it just stinks that this is the world that we're living in. Because if Will Howard and Cooper Beebe and everyone was playing in this game for the Wildcats, I think Kansas State would kind of they may put the boots to NC State, and they may put it up where I think it's 35-10 at halftime if all those guys were playing. But they're not. And it really is tough. And, I talked about in our earlier episode about, John Denver Country Roads. And I went back again, it's perfect here. Another musician, the band Kansas, wrote a song, Dust in the Wind. And at the end of it, it says, now don't hang on. Nothing lasts forever but the earth and sky. It slips away. And all your money won't another minute buy there. And I think those are powerful lyrics here for college football here, Fresh, because I think that it speaks for Kansas where they're going to and losing all of this talent here. And then NC State. No one predicted NC State to have a possible 10-win season. This is everything the Wolfpack could possibly want. This is a Wolfpack party. It slips away. Peyton Wilson's career at NC State is now dust in the wind. He's going off to the NFL. He is going to be one of the top linebackers in the NFL draft going into the season. Jalen Scott, another great NFL linebacker. These are moments that as things are changing, if I'm a Wolfpack fan, again, we talked about West Virginia and West Virginia enjoying this season. If I'm NC State, we're playing with house money. A 10-win season for us. No one picked that. No one sat there and said, oh, this UVA transfer Brennan Armstrong is going to deliver us a 10-win season. Most people were happy to say, you might get 6-6 in a bowl game. Maybe if the ball bounces the right way, okay, 7-5, 8-4 if you have a really great year. Man, NC State, you got a chance at 10 wins here. I like NC State in this football game here, Fresh. I like Brennan Armstrong. I think the senior leadership that is playing for the Wolfpack at this time is going to be a huge deal for them. I think they're going to go out. They're going to win one for the team. This team is going to come together in this football game. I'm interested to see what they do. I'm interested to see how they win in this football game. And I'm interested to see what kind of NC State does going forward from here on out. Great win by them. I think that they're going to eat a Pop-Tart. Fresh, what's your favorite type of Pop-Tart?
Strawberry with the frosted strawberry.
Strawberry? Really? Over like the brown sugar one and the
No, that's
s'mores
no.
one?
Give me frosted strawberry or blueberry or raspberry. Those are the top for me.
Fresh likes the fruit one, so yeah, okay. They're not bad. All right, Fresh. Let's go to the next game we got going on. The Valero Alamo Bowl. It is the Arizona Wildcats out of the Pac-12 there. The last time we'll be saying that one right there. They're 9-3 on the season. We can say a lot about this Wildcat team. Man, what a great season out of them. Who had 9-3 on their bingo card. Oklahoma bouncing back off the mat of such a disappointing season last year. I got some stuff about Oklahoma, though. You need to be, people, if you're a Sooners fan, you need to tune in, listen up. I got some exciting stuff about Oklahoma here coming up here. They're 10-2 on the season out of the Big 12. They're about ready to make the jump over into the SEC here. Right now, Dylan Gabriel is out of there. He's in the transfer portal. He is all the way off to Oregon. Tawee Walker, he's in the transfer portal. Marcus Major, he's in the transfer portal. Anthony, the wide receiver, is out. They got some offensive linemen in the portal right now. Oklahoma, we're going to see what happens with them going there. Arizona, not a lot of your players are in the portal or opting out. At the time of record here, Fresh, I am only seeing 3 guys who are possibly out, and one is only a possible transfer, and that's Jacob Cowing. We'll see if he actually opts out right now, but Fresh, this is looking like Arizona's going to be at full strength in this football game. And it's our first look at Jackson Arnold.
That's the first thing I have there is Jackson Arnold time. Like he's got, he's played in spots throughout the regular season, but now this is his chance. And it kind of worries me. It's going to be like Cade Klubnik last year with Clemson when he got his first start in the title game was one thing, but then his first real bowl start, his first ever true start was in the Orange Bowl. He played a lot in the championship game, but he got his first true start in the Orange Bowl, and Tennessee beat the trash out of him. Is Arnold going to be ready after a couple of weeks of practice to be able to go in here and take on a team that has a chip on their shoulder and wants to prove something? This isn't going to be that easy walk-in ball game for somebody who, you're playing, Southwest Missouri State University or, the Mudcats from down there in Southeast Louisiana State. You're playing a quality opponent. How fast does Arnold pick up the offense and be able to flow, especially with all the opt-outs and losses? You mentioned a couple, but the real problem is that entire starting offensive line for Oklahoma is not playing in this game. You have 2 opt-outs and 3 guys are in the transfer portal. Who's going to be blocking? Where's the depth of that offensive line? How is that going to be tested in this football game to protect for the quarterback, but also open up holes in the running game? This is going to be a lot of focus on the coaches. How do you get that second and those third team players ready to go for a bowl game? Today they have to view this as a pre-spring practice ball game here. This is a pre-spring game ball game. You have a lot of unknowns, most likely. You've seen guys in practice, but now you're going to give them game action. How do the offensive line, flow together? How do they communicate? How do they block? How do they take the calls and the signals? This is going to be some real intense stuff that they're going to have to try to coach them through. So expect to see some mental errors for the offensive line just because they probably haven't played a lot together in big game action that actually means something. Wrap up, junk time when they're up 40-0. That's one thing. And a meaningful game versus a team that's trying to get 10 wins. This is going to be an interesting development challenge for Venables and that entire staff of how to get them going. Especially also with Levy, the former offensive coordinator, now going down to Mississippi State. You had 2 other guys who are on staff taking over. So how do the 2 coordinators, co-offensive coordinators, get the offense blend and deal with some of the other attritional losses from the players leaving? If Oklahoma can put together an offensive game plan and be successful, I think they'll be okay going into next year. If there are a lot of pitfalls, it's going to come to how do they go into the portal and grab players? How do these freshmen, make the transition coming into this upcoming class? How do the guys in the roster develop from this game going forward into spring practice, into fall? A lot going to weigh down on Venables in year 3. You had a rough year, first year 1. Year 2, you beat Texas and it kind of stumbled from there. How do you bounce back and get this program back on year 3 going forward now that you're in the SEC full time? Arizona, Jed Fish. I had you as my surprise team. I figured you'd get maybe 7 wins or squeak into a bowl game. You're playing potentially to win 10. This is absolutely amazing. And if you look at it, they are 2 overtime losses away from New Year's Six Bowl. They only lost by a touchdown to Washington. This team could have played for a Pac-12 title. Maybe they were just too naive to actually realize how good they were playing. They just went out there and competed. But here you are. And this is a very interesting football team. We talked about Oklahoma going to the SEC, Arizona leaving the Pac-12, going to the Big 12 next year. So this is also both teams in transition from conferences, moving around. How do they develop? Are they ready for that next step? A lot of things happening between these programs, between this game and going forward, and who wants it more. Arizona a chance to win 10. That means something. Just like NC State, that means something a lot for them. That means something here for these guys. Can these Wildcats go and get it? Fafita at quarterback, he filled in that the USC game. The injury there's Delora, and kind of just kept it going. He added a spark to this team that they were kind of like hit or miss. You saw potential, you saw them there, but you didn't see him fully take off. He came in, played lights out for USC, and gave this team extra life, and they carried them forward. Had a great year. 2,500 plus passing yards, 23 touchdowns. Really, really fantastic from him. The ground game, Jonah Coleman, over 800 yards and 5 touchdowns. McMillan and Cowling, the 2 receivers. If Cowling does play, I hope he does. Both have had amazing years. McMillan came in with a lot less fanfare than Cowling. He was the one that put up 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns. Cowling, 83 receptions, 696 yards receiving, but 11 touchdowns. So much more of a possession receiver. The two of them complement each other really well. If they both play, I really, really like Arizona's chances because I'm not totally sold on the depth right now from Oklahoma and what they're going to come in this ballgame with. I got a feeling Alamo Bowls are always exciting, folks. There's always tons of points down there in San Antonio. I think Arizona has the juice. Like last year, we had Texas, Washington, and we all gave Texas the nod just because they were Texas, and Washington came out there and they put on a show, and look where they are now. I think Arizona comes in this ballgame, puts on a show, announces they have a chance to beat Oklahoma and really put on their feather in their cap, get 10 wins. This is a big deal. Wildcats get it down, bear down Arizona, and we're going to start having more questions going into next year about what Venables and Oklahoma have. There's a lot of turmoil and a lot of interchange in that roster after 2 years, and they haven't really lived up to expectations.
Fresh, I can't give enough credit to the Wildcats and what Arizona's done, man. I've called him fajitas all year long because of the sizzle it sounds like. It's like he's being at Applebee's. He's the Applebee's quarterback. And this is not a bad thing either. Like, Noah, I'm not saying that to be facetious on you or anything like that. I'm talking about when you're at Applebee's, and the only thing I can think of is when they bring the fajitas around to your table and you can hear the sizzle. That's how hot this guy's been. And this is remarkable. The thing is, everyone's going to point at the 23-5 touchdown interception ratio, which is remarkable. I'm going to point to the 73% completion rating, almost 74% on the year. Kid is accurate. He's deadly with it. And the kid's also only a freshman this year. Like, just think about how much better this kid can get over the next couple of years. I really hope that this is a type of kid, and I know everyone's going to say the right thing, and they're always going to say, like, I'm fully committed to Arizona, and I'm fully committed to Wildcat Nation. I'm going to stay here, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden someone backs up a bag or a truck or something like that with a lot of NIL money, and all that loyalty that you said that you had is no longer there. I really hope he stays. Coleman, going to be interesting. The wide receivers create an interesting matchup challenge for Oklahoma, but I think Oklahoma is up to the test in this one here as well. But, Fresh, I really, really would love to see Arizona get to that 10-win season. I think that's just a remarkable thing for them to do, for able to, hey, no one picked us to do this. And again, you brought it up, 2 games that Bowl Bonanza is a different way in overtime. Arizona's an 11-1 team and probably talking for New Year's Day 6, probably. But for Oklahoma, you're Fresh. I've been doing this all episode. Might as well continue it now. That there's a very famous musical that I had to watch my entire life called Oklahoma. And in the musical Oklahoma, it leads off with There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. And the corn is as high as the elephant's eye. And it looks like it's climbing clear up to the sky. Oh, what a beautiful morning, Fresh. Oh, what a beautiful day. That's what Oklahoma fans should be singing. Oklahoma. Let me tell you, I told you you should need to be excited about something. There is a golden haze in front of you. The sun is rising in the east for the Oklahoma Sooners program here. I know this is going to sound weird. They're like, we're 10-2. How in the world is there a golden haze on the horizon for us? And his name is Jackson Arnold. I think Jackson Arnold is one of the best quarterbacks in this class here. Having him having an opportunity to go up against a very good Arizona team, a very respectable team, is amazing. But not just Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold's only one man. He's only one quarterback. He can't do it alone. Fresh, we talked about this guy when he committed to Oklahoma, and he goes by the name of Gavin Sawchuk. Watch Gavin Sawchuk. He's another freshman from Littleton, Colorado. We talked about this guy. We talked about his track level speed. This kid is blazing fast. He is going to be one of the fastest players in the SEC next year. Oh, and in the last 4 games, he's gone over 100 yards in every single one of those games and has 5 touchdowns on the season. This kid is the real deal. Those two, just those two, I get it. You have problems with the transfer portal in the bowl game there. You still got a good wide receiver there in Drake Stoops. You take a look at, I'm checking real quick here. It looks like Nick Anderson is going to be playing in this game. You take a look at your two leading receivers there. I mean, Fresh, if I'm Oklahoma and I got Nick Anderson, the freshman, there's a bright golden haze on the meadow. Oklahoma, you should be excited. There is a nice golden haze on the meadow for 2024. Oklahoma, be excited. I don't know if you're going to win this football game, but you know what it's going to be? It's going to be a really good Alamo Bowl. It's going to be a lot of points, like you said there. Fresh, the over-under right now is set at 62.5 right now. I think what this is going to do, Oklahoma's going to be excited. And then you're going to go into spring football. And then you're going to get more excited because these guys are going to really perform. You're going to talk yourself up. You're going to say Brett Venables is doing this. We're going to address the offensive line through this way and that way and what have you. Oklahoma's going to get talent. Oklahoma's never not going to have talent. They'll be really good. And I think you can put together a good offensive line at Oklahoma regardless. Just remember when you're walking in and you're saying that oh, what a beautiful morning in 2024, you heard it here first.
Perhaps I would really appreciate if you could take that same, beautiful voice you just displayed for us, and if you could sing Dylan Rayola's commitment to Nebraska poem in that same voice, that would just make my night. That'd be hilarious and be perfect. You're right. Oklahoma will always have players, but the depth in a short situation for one game is going to be tested, and we're going to see who wants to be a Sooner and who wants to show up. And that's going to be something also on the coaches of how quickly can they get them ready to play against a very good football team. They're not playing Eastern Michigan. All due respect to Eastern Michigan, you're playing an aggressive Arizona team, and who wants it in this ball game? That's going to be tested.
All right, Fresh. It'll be a fun one. And remember, it's a free show, so if I'm going to sing the Dylan Rayola poem, we're going to have to put behind a paywall or something. Or
please.
Or, I'll say this. We hit 5,000 subscribers or something like that before, the college football championship game. I'll do it or something like that. But, all right, Fresh, let's go to the Gator Bowl. It's the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl. It's here in Jacksonville, Florida. And it's the Clemson Tigers. They're 8-4 out of the ACC. They're going to face the Kentucky Wildcats in this football game. Out of the SEC, they're 7-5 on the season. Clemson, Bo Collins is out. They got a couple of guys on the offensive line here. Jeremiah, biggest opt-out right there. Barrett Carter is potential opt-out. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., he is opting out. Nate Wiggins, the cornerback, is opting out as well. Pride as well. You take a look at for Kentucky right now. This is interesting. Ray Davis was a potential opt-out. He looks like he is playing, and a couple of guys in the portal, but Kentucky's got a lot of guys coming in. But we'll be interested to see this one, Fresh. How do you see Clemson versus Kentucky going?
Well, I think Clemson's on heater right now. They had a rough start. They were 4-4, and then our boy Troy from Spartanburg called in and got into a shouting match with Dabo. And from there on out, Clemson Tigers maybe found themselves a little bit. They galvanized themselves. They rallied around their coach. Maybe they were proud their coach stood up for them and fought. But they've won 4 straight, including wins over Carolina, Georgia Tech, South Carolina, Notre Dame. Obviously, some of those are names and they aren't the greatest, but you're still throwing four wins together when you were up against it 4-4. And you come into this ball game, yeah, you've had a lot of guys opt out or transfer or whatever. But when Barrett Carter said that he's not going pro, he's staying, I think it might have told some of the younger players, like, there's a standard and I'm leaving more on the field. I don't want to leave what I have here. I have more to give to Clemson. And I think that right there is going to be someone in that locker room, in that team, as a vocal leader that's going to help them help the Tigers be prepared for this football game. 8-5 and 9-4 are completely different. Cade Klubnik, you've had a rough season this year, up and down. Good moments, bad moments. You had a lot of pressure on your shoulders. I want to see what you can do in this ball game as a transition in the next year. Use this as a springboard going forward. Your last bowl experience in Miami versus Tennessee last year was horrendous, and I'm sure you want to forget it. You have a chance to make up for it in this game versus an SEC opponent in the Kentucky Wildcats. Phil Maffa, Will Shipley. We've seen the 1-2 back combination. It used to be just all Shipley. He's kind of been dealing with injuries, kind of taken himself out. Not exactly the lead back anymore. They've kind of gone about 1A, 1B situation. I expect them both to be heavily involved in the ground game. If you're Clemson, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. Be physical. You don't have to let Klubnik throw the ball all day long. Get physical in the trenches, run the ball at Kentucky. Try to become a tough football team. Be a physical football team. The finesse side, when you had your offense under Watson and Lawrence, it was great. You won some national titles. You were throwing all over the yard. You had Hunter Renfrow in his 85th year at Clemson. It was great. You're a different football team, and it's maybe time to embrace that and continue to keep feeding off that, of running the football, being a physical team, and then passing them you want to. Don't have Klubnik be that don't be him be the focal point of the offense and have him distribute, because you don't have the same receivers you had either as well. So you've blended that offense. You've made some changes. Continue to keep feeding off that in this football game. You're going to have athletes on defense. We get it. Kentucky. It's looking like Stoops is going to go to A&M for a second, and apparently the A&M boosters didn't want him, so he came back to Kentucky. It's kind of awkward. This is the first time he's on the field since that whole thing went down. Tons of transfers coming into Kentucky, but obviously none of those guys can play on this game. If Ray Davis plays, interesting. I like it. He's already said he's going to the NFL, so I don't think he's going to play. I think he wants to get to the NFL draft. Leary, this is your last real, opportunity as a quarterback. I don't really know if you're NFL material, at least as a starter. So can you go out here? Can you show up against Clemson? Can you put some points on the board? And honestly, Cohen, Liam Cohen is offensive coordinator. Open up the playbook. You want to try to draw on there and show that you're an NFL coordinator who came back to college to develop these quarterbacks. Spread the offense out. Get vertical. Attack Clemson. Show something no one's ever seen before. If you want to track recruits, you want to track more guys in the portal, because this game is a couple days before January 2nd when the portal closes, go out there, open up the offense. You have some guys coming in already that are on campus, but show other people, make an impression that we're going to be vertical. We're going to show a modern offense, because right now in this day of college football, you cannot be 3 yards in a cloud of dust and just play defense anymore. Look what happened to Iowa. They have an amazing defense with Iowa. The offense is letting them down. You have to have an offense that can score some points and be a little more prolific. And you want to show recruits that you can put some NFL product on the field, because all these kids are thinking about is wins, NIL, and how can I get to the league. If you can show offensive concepts and philosophies and put points on the board, help your defense out, but also help attract recruits and show you can get them where they want to go. This is a game that you can start to springboard that with. Go out there, open it up, throw the ball a little around. You showed offense versus Louisville. You went out there and you beat the second best team in the ACC. you have a chance of beating Clemson here. That could put another feather in the cap of teams that you're beating that people recognize. Can you do it? Can Big Blue Nation show up in Jacksonville and get it done? Defensively, you're going to be tough. You're always going to be physical. Big Blue Wall, that offensive line, you weren't exactly that great this year. Can you guys reestablish your dominance and you earn that nickname back? That's what I want to see. Use this game going forward to 2024 for Stoops in Kentucky. In the end, I think Dabo has too much momentum with Clemson. I think the Tigers have too much right now. They get it done. They will cover the spread and the over will hit.
Wow. Spread's currently at 5 points, Clemson, and over-under set 47 in this game. Fresh, we were treated to a heck of a Gator Bowl last year, and I'm a little concerned about the one that we're about ready to see. Clemson needs this football game, but they've lost a lot on defense. They've lost a lot on defense for the transfer portal or opting out. You see Klubnik, what he's done on the season there, and you talk about this with Klubnik. He's got to be. He hasn't been bad. He just hasn't been like what you'd expect. Because remember, you had a very good quarterback in DJU who was very similar, putting up the same stats as Klubnik is. It may be time for Dabo to take a long look in the mirror and say, I need to do something differently here. I need to do something differently offensively because my quarterbacks aren't producing to the level of Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson or anything like that. I get it. There's a great difference in talent gap right there. Overall, we're talking about 2 first-round picks. But Clemson should be better offensively on this. You take a look at Will Shipley. I know he battled some stuff all throughout this season here. And, take a look at what he did. 80 yards against South Carolina. I know he really kind of struggled throughout the year. And then, Tyler Brown. I don't think he's opting out right now. Take a quick look there. But, where's it going to come from Clemson? Where's it going to be like the offensive? Kentucky, same thing. Devin Leary, you transfer from NC State. Yeah, kind of a horrific year. Completing only 56% of your passes. He turned the ball over, took sacks in opportune time. But I can't say enough nice things about Ray Davis. Like, transferred in and just balled out at Kentucky. You look at him, 1,000-yard season, 13 touchdowns, and especially him playing in this game. I think he's got the advantage with Trotter out and some of the other people that Clemson is missing on the defensive side of the football, and Ray Davis saying, I'm going to play in this football game. I like the move. I really do. I think he's going to really help Kentucky in this. It's which Kentucky receiver can have a decent game. You talk about Clemson is missing one of their starting cornerbacks there. Can they play beyond theirs in the system? Can they kind of take advantage of those mismatches? I don't know here, Fresh. But there's something, again, what I'm going to go to right here. Growing up, Fresh, I was a big fan of the singer Meatloaf. And Meatloaf's first number 1 hit was that I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. Fresh, I love you as much as I could for a co-host. And I legitimately would do pretty much anything for you as a really good friend here. But I won't do that. I won't pick Clemson. It's what Meatloaf wouldn't want me to do. I'll tell you that right now. I'd do anything for love, but I won't do that. And so I'm picking, I'll take Kentucky and the points in it just for spite because of Dabo Sweeney and Meatloaf taught me better otherwise. So, there's 2 versions of that song?
No, I did not know there's 2 versions of that song.
So it's like an extra minute and a half in that song.
Did you know one thing we haven't really talked about much at all this year? Speaking of Clemson and struggles.
Besides Meatloaf and his awesomeness.
Who was the offensive coordinator for TCU last year?
Oh, I don't remember off the top of my head.
It was Garrett Riley. He did all the stuff with them. Dugan, Max Duggan and all those guys. They bring him in here. Lincoln Riley's little brother. This offense for Clemson the entire year has not looked a thing like whatever Lincoln Riley does or what they had last year at TCU. The mobile quarterback, the running game, the receivers, the fast pace. There's just something that's not clicking. Whether it was just TCU had a luck of the year and everything just sort of flowed for them, but the personnel for Clemson isn't what Garrett Riley needs. But that offense just did not give you that feel of 4 receivers, air raid, spread it out. Maybe it's the quarterback and not having that mobility, or maybe just don't have the playmaking receivers, but something's not there. And it makes you kind of wonder, does Dabo have too much restraint on what Garrett Riley's trying to do? Or they have the playmakers, they don't have them there? Are they a year away, maybe getting more kids in? But there's just something that has not gelled from that entire move. And for all the money they paid him, it seemed like a waste right now. And I want to see if they use this game to get back to the air raid, fast-paced offense.
Yeah. Well, I'll be interested to see what they do in this football game here, Fresh, because it's going to be a really, really interesting one for them. All right, let's go to our next game. This game was part of our fan poll here. The Gator Bowl was one of them, and this is the other one. It is the Tony the Tiger. It's the Sun Bowl.
They're great.
There you go, Fresh. I was waiting for you. I was waiting for you on that one. We got Oregon State. What a year for the Beavers. I love Oregon State. It's sad that this is kind of how it goes out and ends. Oregon State 8-4 on the season out of the Pac-12. They're going against Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. They are 9-3 on the season. Spread right now is 6.5 points for Notre Dame. Over-under is set at only 42 points in this football game. Taking a look at those who are opting out in this football game.
It's a long list.
There's a long, long list here. Audric Esime is out for Notre Dame. Sam Hartman, 3 wide receivers for Notre Dame. Joe Alt, their offensive tackle. There's offensive lineman. There's Holden Stays. He's in the transfer portal. There's a lot of guys who are out for this one. Xavier Watts is playing in this game. He was a potential opt-out. He is playing in this game. That's a big one for them. For Oregon State, their head coach is gone. He is off to Michigan State. DJU is gone. The backup quarterback is Aiden Childs is gone. Damian Martinez is questionable in this game. Their wide receiver, Anthony Gould, is opting out as well. I mean, I'm taking a look here, Fresh. I'm just trying not to go just like read off everything here. A bunch of their linemen are injured. You're looking at Jack Velling. You take a look at him. He is opting out of this football game. Their leading tight end. Their defense. There's guys in the portal. I mean, this really is like the opt-out portal game. I don't know how we're gonna like really talk about this game because all of the guys that we would say, I mean, Fenwick's playing for Oregon State.
Well, I think when you start at it, this game was one of the many that was hit with the chaos of the ripple effects of Florida State not getting in the playoff. So if you aren't familiar with what happened, obviously Florida State did not make the college football playoff. All the ACC and their bowl alignments, because the conferences align the schools based on finishing and where they want the best matchup with the TV groups, et cetera, et cetera. They had already pre-planned all their options, assuming Florida State made the playoff. And when they didn't, that obviously drops them down in a shuffle. And they figured Louisville would have gotten the other New Year's Six Bowl. So now they're going to put people around. They had to actually have a pause and reevaluate where the teams were going to go. And because Notre Dame fits in a potential ACC slot in a lot of different cases, they could have gone to other bowls. They could have filled in an ACC slot. They had to throw them in the mix. And there was a major pause on where this was going to go until it was announced that Notre Dame's going to the Sun Bowl. And I think within, an hour and a half, the entire game was sold out, maybe 2 hours. It was almost lightning fast. Immediate ticket sales. The place is going to be packed down there in El Paso. But nobody's actually going to be playing. Like, we're going to have – this is going to be a major depth test right here. Who is actually putting a uniform for Oregon State? Who's putting on a Notre Dame uniform? I think it'd be great for the coaching staffs to really see and evaluate who they have going forward, especially for Coach Freeman. His first ever game was versus Oklahoma State in the Fiesta Bowl. They had a big lead. They lost. They came back. That was a rough experience right there. It starts off the next year up and down, a lot of trials and tribulations. This year had a little more success, but I think we're still waiting for that wow factor of Coach Freeman of putting Notre Dame legit back as like an 11-1 team and dominating people. Where's his true state on the program? I think this is a chance right here with all the opt-outs and moving around. Can you come down here and get a back-to-back bowl? Can you come down here and get back-to-back bowl wins and then maybe move forward next year with the playoff being 12 teams and really make your run to go get it done? But you've got to get this game. You've got to beat this depleted Oregon State team to really put yourself back on the map that Notre Dame is truly to be feared, because I think we're at the point right now where it's just Notre Dame. I mean, I'm sorry, but it just feels like it's just Notre Dame. They show up. They play great defensively versus Ohio State. It was an amazing game, but they left a lot on the field that we kind of like that. That was a wasted opportunity. There's games they look great, and then you lose to a Clemson, a 4-4 Clemson team. We're still waiting for that factor. And when will it come through? Who's going to take charge of that football team and be the leader in that locker room that's young, that's not a one transfer in like Hartman? It just kind of felt like after the first couple of games of the year, he definitely faded quickly. Like the shine on that transfer and that offense was gone. They looked great over in Ireland, beating up on Navy. They looked great about beating up on whoever, but when the games actually mattered, it was not him. It was Estime who was really getting it done for Notre Dame. He's not playing. Where's this Irish football team going to really grasp and hold and play in Freeman's image? Is this game going to be the first one, or is this going to be another practice game that nothing really happens? We don't really get a feel of who they are going forward. That's why I'm watching Notre Dame. On the other side of Oregon State, it's been a fiasco. It's now the Pac-2. Now that the championship game is officially done, you move forward here. You're in that deal with the Mountain West. It's a very unknown, uneasy spot for not just Oregon State football, but all athletics. And you've had a special season. It broke my heart to see Jonathan Smith leave, being an alum, being a quarterback there, tried the program, tried and true. But the decisions outside of his own control, this entire conference collapsing, forces him to leave. If this was still a Pac-12 with legit teams and the entire conference stayed together, he does not leave Oregon State after this year. But he knows this program was kind of out in the middle of nowhere and floundering, and he had to strike when the iron's hot. Oregon State fans, please do not take it out on him for leaving. It's unfortunately it's a product of the business. The transfer portal, DJU leaving, other guys leaving. It's a product of the business for him because Oregon State and Washington State were left out of what the Pac-12 should be. And it really sucks to see that happen. I hope Damian Martinez plays in this ball game. Give him a chance to really shine in the bowl game and really show off his skills, because the dude has some amazing ability and is definitely built for playing on Sundays. Oregon State, for the players that are playing, who's the voice in the locker room? Where do you guys rally? You're down to your third string quarterback. Where's the playmakers going to come from? Who wants to show up and play for the Beavers? You have a chance of beating Notre Dame. That doesn't come along very often. Have a chance to beat Notre Dame is a big deal. I think even still for a lot of people, you beat the name Notre Dame in a big bowl game, that still rings true a little bit. Go out there, stand on your business and get it done. Be tough, be physical. Take it to Notre Dame. And you know what? Even a depleted team, I'm going to say that Oregon State makes this a ball game. This will be a one-score football game. I think Notre Dame maybe has just a little bit too much, and they find a way to squeak it out. But this will be a battle all the way through. These Oregon State players are tough. They're the embodiment entire of the program. They're going to hit you for the entire 60 minutes. They're going to make you earn every yard. But Notre Dame, I think, depth-wise, has just enough left in the tank to find a way to get a one-score win and survive in El Paso. But it'll be a heck of a Tony the Tiger Bowl.
Yeah. Fresh, I'm hoping this game is better because this game has an opportunity to be a letdown game as well. It could be. I don't think there's a middle ground in this. I'm like, oh yeah, there's a fun bowl game to watch. It's okay. Great. I think it's either going to be two teams who are just a bunch of reserve guys, just we're going to go across and beat the living heck out of each other, or it's just going to be we can notice that it is all the backups playing in this football game. Fresh, I've been going through this and through this whole episode. I'm quoting you songs, so I'm definitely not going to stop here tonight. Especially with Notre Dame, I went around and I said, what's the comparison thing for here? And I said, Notre Dame is one of the great Irish bands of all time, in my opinion, is the band Flogging Molly, and they had this song called that I loved. Called "What's Left on the Flag," And you take a look at it, it says his eyes were closed when his last breath spoke. He had seen all to be seen. A life once full, now an empty vase, with the blossoms on his early grave. And I'm reading this, and I was listening to the song earlier before we came on the air, and I was like, that to me speaks complete volumes of like the Pac-12 and Oregon State. Like they've seen everything. They went toe to toe. They beat Utah in Corvallis this year. They went toe to toe with a lot of really good football teams. They had talent out the in-game. Jonathan Smith was a phenomenal coach for Oregon State. Notre Dame, like they came in all hyped on the year. They had they started off the season red hot. And that Ohio State game was back and forth. And, depending on who you want to say, like they probably should have won that football game. They dropped an interception to allow Ohio State the opportunity. So I think we're just left with whatever's left on the flag. Like we're raising up the flagpole and we're going to put it up there, and it's going to be Oregon State. It's going to be Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's going to have better depth. If Martinez and Fenwick both play in this football game, I think it's going to make the game very interesting for them. The law firm of Martinez and Fenwick, you take a look at them, almost 1,700 yards between the two of them, 14 rushing touchdowns. Notre Dame, I would like to see a little bit of Jeremiah Love. Let's see what he's got. Freshman, you take a look. He played a little bit sparingly down the stretch there. He's kind of been the spellback for SMA. What is he able to do? But are they going to be able to run the football with whatever's left of that offensive line for Notre Dame there? I'm going to guess Notre Dame's depth is a little bit better than Oregon State's depth. I'm going to take Notre Dame in this football game. If this game gets sloppy, the over will come in at that 42 mark. But again, give me Notre Dame in this one.
I think it'll be a fun one. The Sun Bowl always delivers out there in El Paso, so I got a feeling that'd be worth turning into and on CBS.
Yeah. I was thinking about quoting a song about El Paso, but I decided against that. All right, Fresh, let's go to the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. It is the Memphis Tigers. They're 9-3 on the season, and they're going up against the Iowa State Cyclones. They're 7-5 out of the Big 12. You take a look at this game right now. Iowa State is a 6-point favorite in basically a home game for Memphis. Like
basically,
it's
their home stadium.
It's their home stadium, right?
Yeah, they're the road team in this game, but it's their home stadium. It's really weird. Like,
how did this even happen? Like,
this comes down to a thing where it's usually a Big 12 SEC matchup. But I think with bowl eligible teams and other slots, this is how you kind of have to pick the next best. But even then, Memphis, I'm going to say right now, it sucks for the players. It really does, because part of the bowl experience is having that trip. You go somewhere cool, you do the stuff. Yes, you're in your home. You're at where you're always at. You're playing your own stadium. You're going to be very comfortable where you're at. All of your friends from the school will be coming out of the bowl game. But the trip of going somewhere, that makes the experience so much better. And I got a feeling that it's going to be interesting to see how that Memphis team reacts, because on one hand, it's a home game. We should have tons of fans, or the entire city who are fans should be at the bowl game. We should have a dominant presence. But on their side, we didn't travel anywhere. We didn't go, go to Orlando or go to, San Antonio or wherever. We're staying here. It's cool. We love Memphis and all, but this is our home. So how do those guys react and play this one out? There was chances they had a slight chance of being played for the AAC title if they beat SMU and kind of squeezed in. They had a great year, but it kind of made me wish they had more. Iowa State on the other side, 7-5, but they were much better than I think the 7-5 record. The Big 12 was very tough this year. They were actually up in that conversation to potentially play for a Big 12 title was up until the last 2 weeks of the year. They were competitive in conference play. Obviously, they lost to Iowa during the season, but they were there. They had a scrappy season. Matt Campbell last year maybe laid a dud. This year they fought back and they were there and they made things happen. I think they regret their 10-7 loss to Ohio, the Bobcats, not Ohio State, the Ohio Bobcats. But they beat Oklahoma State and Kansas State. where it's like a Jekyll and Hyde kind of team. They lost another tight, 10-8 or 10-7 ball game to Iowa. It's kind of like the but kind of team where they played scrappy, but they couldn't always come through and get wins in the end. They weren't the Brock Purdy, Collar, Brees Hall offense where they were just dominating people, but they found ways to win. They found ways to get it done. And Matt Campbell, I think, showed the true coaching and development of the players that we had kind of missed last year. Maybe last year was that gap year where we're starting to see those guys sort of show up across the offensive and defensive sides, who are showing the fruits of a 3 to 4 year plan in the program, learning the system, developing, hitting the weight room, bonding together, and it put forward. And going forward now with Texas and Oklahoma leaving, it puts Iowa State in a strong leadership position from the head coach down that they can make some noise in the Big 12 going forward and really be a chance to make a difference. But a win here, going 8-5 or 7-6, that's going to be the big springboard going into next year. Does Iowa State come in here and get and come with something to prove? Like, we are not playing a bowl game; we are playing a road game at Memphis. We're going to make this trip. There's going to be a lot of celebration, but the entire crowd is going to be hostile. How do we mind ourselves when we come to this game? We've gone to Austin. We've gone to Stillwater. We've gone to Norman. We've gone to Lubbock. We can go to Memphis. Come with that mindset that you have something to prove. Just because you're like, oh, we're the Big 12. They're AAC. No, you're going to a legit road game. Be prepared. Come in there focused, business-like, and take care of business. Because Seth Hennigan, quarterback from Memphis, is a dude. And the guy can put up tons of stats all year long. He had a heck of a year last year. He has a chance to show out in his own stadium. You better be prepared to play some defense because the Tigers come after you and get and try to take it out. They've had a heck of a year. They've been tested all year. This is a battle-tested Memphis football team. They have 3 losses: 1 to Missouri, 1 to Tulane, and 1 to SMU by combined 21 points. Those scores were 7, 10, and 4 specifics in the differential. These guys compete and they play and they can score. They are not a pushover. They're not a wash. I think they have more, as much as I said about Iowa State and them being a gritty football team, Memphis has something to prove. I think they know they left something out there this entire year. I think the Memphis Tigers at home in the Liberty Bowl get it done, and they do it convincingly. Whoa. They are going to take out the Cyclones. They're going to make a statement, and then they're going to hang out in Beale Street and have a fun time.
Oh, Fresh, you just set this up to this. So, Iowa State, you're sitting there, and the Memphis Tigers don't have to travel. That's a huge advantage. Take a look. They're walking around in Memphis. They're walking probably with their 10 feet 10 feet off of Beale, walking in Memphis. Fresh, I don't know. Do you really feel the way I feel about Memphis? Now, because I feel a little bit differently about this in Iowa State, man. I think that you're right about Coach Campbell over there at Iowa State. Oh, I spent plenty of time prepping for this episode here to sit there fresh.
Just go to Graceland, man. Just go to Graceland.
I saw the ghost of Elvis. So anyways, you talk about Iowa State and you talk about Coach Campbell. And last year he had all of these expectations. He had all of these things put upon him about to perform, and he didn't. And I think that's the truth with Iowa State. Iowa State's a great under-the-radar program. When you don't have expectations, when you don't expect them to win week in, week out, you don't expect them to compete for a conference title, they're going to do some things and they're going to surprise you. When you start loading up those expectations for them, that's when, the light gets a little too bright for a program like Iowa State, and there's nothing wrong about that. Iowa State's a very respectable program. I like Iowa State a lot. But you're right, Fresh. That defense has got to come to play. Iowa State had the second best run defense in the Big 12. I believe the third best pass defense in the Big 12. You take a look at Memphis here coming in. Seth Hennigan, like you said, he is a dude. The kid can play. You take a look, 28 touchdowns, 9 interceptions on the year. Blake Watson, the running back, again, 14 touchdowns by him. It's going to be a test against the Iowa State defense there. It's his senior year. This kid gets one opportunity. You have 2 awesome names for wide receivers. You have Rock Taylor, which I love that name, leading receiver there. Demir Blake Kumsky. I think I got that name right. And then take a look, Blake Watson, third leading receiver out of the backfield. Memphis is a tough team to game plan here for. I really think you can't just be walking in Memphis here. You can't just, sit there and say you got to be grounded. You have to be ready to go if you're Iowa State. Iowa State, what are they going to do on the offense? Rocco has been really good for them. He's been fun to watch for what they've been able to do. The kid's got 20 touchdowns on the year. Iowa State's done it in a very unique way. They haven't done it with like this high power, like massive offense there. They've run the ball consistently. They got a bunch of different dudes that can kind of help with the running attack. And then the defense has really carried them. You take a look, 16 interceptions on the year. Can they force Memphis into some turnovers? If they do that, this gets a long day and an afternoon. I really want to pick Iowa State in this game. I really do, because I love the Cyclones. I love Coach Campbell over there. But, you got Muriel playing piano over there in Memphis. And, with the ghost of Elvis walking around, man, on Union Street or Union Avenue, I'll take the Memphis Tigers in this game.
Hey, give me some Memphis barbecue, some Memphis Blues, Graceland, pink Cadillacs. It's gonna be a fun little night there. I think Memphis just has a little too much at home.
I'd love to see you driving a pink Cadillac, Fresh. That'd be pretty cool. We'll see if we can set that up someday. All right, Fresh. But yeah, we'll see what we can do. Anyone who's got a pink Cadillac that Fresh can drive around, he would like to take it for a spin, maybe out for a date. He does cook, ladies. All right, Fresh. Let's go to our last game of this record before we get into New Year's Day 6. See, this is why you got to listen to the full episode. You don't get the fun stuff if you listen to just the individual games. Let's go to the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl here. This one's played one of like the 4 bowl games played in Orlando. I think there's 4 bowl games played in Orlando.
Oh, yeah, there's 4. I mean, at this point, it might be like 8 before we're done, Just keep sending everything to Orlando and play them all there.
There we go. So we got the inept offense of the Iowa Hawkeyes. They're 10-3 somehow from the Big Ten. Fascinating there. And then you got Tennessee from the SEC, 8-4, kind of limped along in their schedule. All right, take a look here, Fresh. There's some guys opting out in this football game here. I'm trying to real quick pull the opt-out list here. Try and pull it up here. You take a look at all of the people out for, you take a look at Jalen Wright is out for Tennessee. Brew McCoy is injured in this. A lot of their offensive linemen looks like they're either injured in the transfer portal, out. They got guys on defense that are injured or in the transfer portal or opting out. It's going to be an interesting thing here, Fresh. But the one guy that's not for Tennessee, Joe Milton, he's not opting out, and Jabari Small, he's not opting out either. Squirrel White, he'll be there playing for Iowa. Deacon Hill, he's taken over. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. Here you take a look at, you got LaShawn Williams. I don't know. Cooper DeJean, I think this is the one that will really hurt them. Cooper DeJean, one of the best cornerbacks in college football. He is out in this football game. He is nursing an injury, so we'll see what goes on there. But Fresh, Iowa, Tennessee, what you got for us?
Well, I think first off, I was really hoping that John would play all the Iowa starters and actually all the Tennessee offensive starters. I really want to see the Tennessee offense has the potential to be explosive versus the Iowa defense and really get that true matchup of pretty good offense versus a really good defense. And we've seen over the past 3 years since Heupel's been there, every time Tennessee plays a really good defense, they get shut down. Will this Iowa defense do the same? Because it's going to tell us 2 stories. Number one, it will prove if Iowa can shut them down or limit them, that it's a gimmick offense or it's nothing creative. It just, they put up against bad teams, and that's about it. Or we keep hearing about all these Big Ten defenses like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Northwestern, so on and so forth. They're also great, but they're all the majority of the offenses in the conference are terrible. If Iowa's defense doesn't show up and they get smoked, then that kind of maybe sends the conversation that maybe some of those offenses in the Big 12 aren't very good and it makes those defense look better. But if Iowa's defense shows up and shuts them down, and folks, if you haven't paid attention, Iowa actually shows up in bowl games, especially against the SEC. They get out there, they play tough, they have a lot of pride, and they're very physical. And the last time Iowa and Tennessee played in a bowl game, I believe, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, was in the Gator Bowl in 2015, 2016, and there was a lot of trash. Tennessee put the boots to them. They beat the trash out of Iowa. They were jabbing. They were running their mouths. The Tennessee fans made sure Iowa players heard it all along. I was in the stands. I heard Tennessee fans chirping all the time. This might be a little payback. I'm not going to say they're going to drop like 25 points on them or anything, because that gets offensive coordinators fired for Iowa. But this team's going to be physical and have a little pride to show up and play against Tennessee. Kirk Ferentz, can you get this entire team motivated? Is the program ready to take on Tennessee and show up? Or they have their minds right? Because last time you guys were, you played, you actually gave a spirited effort versus Michigan. Michigan did not blow you guys out like everybody thought they were going to put up 60 on you. If it wasn't for that punt return, that game might have actually been tighter. So can you come in here after a month off, regroup, defensively come out here, put something together for Josh Heupel's offense, and put on a show and shut them down, limit their offense, and maybe find a way to squeak out some points on offense and stun them. Be a physical football team. Tennessee do not like teams that are physical with them at the line of scrimmage on offense or defense. If you watch when they play Alabama this year or 2 years ago, the past 3 years they played Georgia, when Josh Heupel teams face a physical football team, they get knocked down a peg or two. Can you use that script to at least be physical at the line of scrimmage, get pressure on the quarterback, and attack them? Look on the other side. Heupel, this is your chance to prove the narrative wrong. Come out here against a physical team. Try to test yourself and be physical at the offensive line, be physical at the defensive line, attack people and run the ball down the throat. You have a great running offense versus nobodies, but then you get big games, it kind of fades away. Can you test the mettle of your entire football team? Because right now, yes, there's no East and West anymore, so getting the SEC title game and getting the playoffs is going to be a lot tougher, but you're going to have to be a very physical football team to survive and go where you want to go if you want to make the playoff and be one of those top 12 teams. You've got to build the program core. The fancy spread offenses, they're great in show, but they don't get it done when it actually matters. You've got to use this game as a chance to build that going forward. And on top of that, why even play Milton? Why? There's no point in playing Joe Milton. Play Nico. See what you have at quarterback. Because right now, going forward, if Nico isn't the answer next year, you're going to have no idea what you have. Those games are going to get tougher and tougher, and you're going to have to pay the price for lack of a quarterback development, and lack of truly being ready to handle the spotlight. The transfer portal's there. If you come out in this ballgame on January 1, the portal closes January 2, you might be too late to go out there and get a kid until maybe during the summer and not be able to play immediately. Play Nico. Get him out there, see what you got. Give him a chance. The game, you're 8-4. Who cares if you're 9-4 or 8-5? It doesn't matter. Knowing if you have a quarterback going into spring and going into fall, that's what matters more. You played, obviously, it was because Hooker was hurt. You gave Milton a chance last year in the Orange Bowl to show up and show out. He had a big game. It gave him some momentum going here. Do the same with Nico. Give Milton a drive or two as a courtesy, but play Nico the entire ball game. Get him some experience when games actually matter, because you got to know what you have. If you have struggles, that could open up and maybe give you a different direction. If you know you have a quarterback who understands the offense, that might help build some confidence going forward. I'm really actually intrigued. I love these. This used to be the Capital One Bowl. It's been the Citrus Bowl. It goes from name all over again. The SEC, Big Ten matchups in any kind of bowl game, they always just have that intrigue. And I don't care what people say. They cheer for the conference. They don't cheer for the conference. Both these conferences and both the fan bases of all these different teams in those conferences, they like to compete against each other. And these are games they actually care about. Did you win? What's the record in the SEC Big Ten matchups? That's why I want to see guys compete in this ball game. Come out there in January 1 and show up. In the end, I think Tennessee has just enough on both sides of the ball to find a way to beat Iowa. I don't trust Iowa's offense, but don't worry, Iowa fans. This is the last game of Brian Ferentz. The opening if you want to apply for the job is already posted on the athletic site. You can apply to be the Iowa offensive coordinator if you want. This is his last game. So you know what's going to happen? Iowa's actually going to score 25 points. But Tennessee will score 40 and win 40-25.
Fresh, we've already submitted your resume to Iowa for the OC position.
I mean, the vertical pass out there gets me a job, right?
Right, pretty much. You take a look at Iowa and Tennessee, man. Fresh, it's two totally different offenses. I'm with you. I think Nico should be playing this game. Joe Milton, or at least if you want to give Joe Milton like his one last chance in the sun, his one last time for the sun to shine on him, then by all means, give him a little bit of go in this game. But Nico I would be splitting series. Like it's a bowl game. It doesn't matter for this. I need to see Nico against a top flight defense like Iowa. And Iowa does have a top flight defense. It is a really good defense. They shut down pretty much everybody who played against them. Very limited with them. But that offense is just so inept. It's so bad. I mean, how are they going to put up points? Like you can't count on Tennessee getting you safeties and field goals and block punts the whole way. I mean, Tennessee is going to score a couple of touchdowns in this football game. I think Tennessee's only got to score like 2 touchdowns to win this football game. They scored 2 touchdowns. Iowa's going to have a real hard time coming back with it. Fresh, the nice thing about Iowa and Tennessee, Iowa's going to have a great running back here in LaShawn Williams. Kid's tough. At least he runs some football hard. I'm hoping, he didn't look that good against Michigan, but he did look very, very good against Wisconsin in a really tough game. Ground out the tough yardage in there. You've had him, Caleb Johnson is back, but he really hasn't been getting the main carries that Williams has been getting. And Tennessee, it's going to be cool. Jalen Wright's not playing in this game, so Jabari Small, what are you going to get from him? What are you going to get from Dylan Sampson in this football game? Both of those guys look like they're going to be the next running back to kind of take over that mantle. Fresh, I saved this one for last for you because every time we've talked to Iowa, and you talk about I owe Iowa more than anyone can owe. But here's the greatest thing. Iowa's known for their corn. They're known for their barley, their wheat, and their rye. All things that we're very large fans of in the right capacity. When you take a look at,
if you will.
Fermentation. Right. And Tennessee, you take a look at this. Corn won't grow at all on Rocky Top. The dirt's too rocky by far. That's why all the folks on Rocky Top obviously get their corn from a jar. There's reasons for this, guys. There's reason for it. Listen, I'll do this because I've had a friend of the show who is a huge Tennessee fan. He has produced some very fine still, and you kind of look for that moonshine, and it's delicious. A long time ago, I had opportunity. So give me Tennessee, give me Rocky Top. We'll drink corn from a jar here, Fresh. And that's my pick for the Citrus Bowl.
Well, I joked about the 40-24, folks. This game's going to be more like a 27-7 Tennessee win because obviously Iowa can't score. But I think just enjoy this game because it's the last of the Brian Ferentz era for Iowa Hawkeye football, and you can only go up offensively from there.
Right. And if you've enjoyed all of the songs that we have quoted here in the day, make sure you go back and download them, especially Meatloaf. Meatloaf doesn't get his due. All right, folks. Hey, you've listened to another episode. We got more coming. So again, like I said, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, get notified every single time we drop a new episode. I might be making movie references next go around, but get notified every single time we drop a new episode. Make sure you're visiting Spinnable Sports. So go to spinnablesports.com because the Irrational Confidence Podcast is part of spinnablesports.com. Special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. And special thanks to all of you. It has been a magical ride this season. It's been a blast. We're in the second week of bowl season. We could not do any of this without you. You are wonderful. You are fantastic. We love every one of our fans. And special thank you to that state of Kansas. You guys have been phenomenal supporting us along the way. So, Fresh, It's probably we're going to New Year's Day 6 games. We'll have some resolutions. Maybe some of these teams might need to make some New Year's resolutions. I don't know. I'm a little off the chain tonight because I've quoted songs to you all day long about different games, but hopefully it's bowl season. I don't gotta be as serious.
Bowl season is a lot of fun. It's all about the joy of football.
Right.
But New Year's 6, that's the games that actually mean something, and we'll get to those games here in a minute. But everyone, thank you guys for tuning in. Keep spreading the word. Get us more followers. Interact with us any way possible. We want to hear you, good, bad, and different. Love you all. Interact all the way. And Happy New Year. Hope you have a safe 2024 and continue to keep tuning in to us all the way on Spinnable Sports and the Irrational Conference podcast. And with that, bye, y'all.